Ladies and gents, and welcome to CG Reaction. This is Origin of Phrases by the channel SamONella Academy. I actually look up to this time when I react to Sam videos because this always lighten up my day. This is for you, anybody who's watching in America. This is probably a morning when you're watching, but I'm in India, so this is mostly evening, late evening. So I'm tired of from entire day, and I'm like, you know what? Let's react to a Sam video that's gonna, I guess, freshen me up a bit. So yeah, origin of phrases. There is a caught red-handed. I think that comes from a British law, in which if you're only allowed to butcher your own animal. If you butcher anyone else's animal, it's a crime. And only way you can get caught doing that is if you have blood in your hand of that animal. So but everybody was like, caught red-handed, caught red-handed. I'm like, what the hell is that from? So I remember googling up a bit about that a long time ago, and there was other thing about burying the hatchet. Obviously, that's come from Native American times. During that, they called the truce, and not Native Americans basically buried all the weapons, hatchets and things like that. Dig up the ground and buried them. That's where the phrase come from. They were literally inaccessible, those weapons. And barking up the wrong tree. So this is about the hunting time. So when a hunting dog chases its prey, and the dog thinks the prey is at some kind of tree, and they bark at that tree, but clearly the prey has ran away a long time ago, but dog is mistaken. So this is from the phrase. That phrase come from. What else is the phrase? Turning a blind eye. Yes, that's the one. That's about, I guess, some guy. This is around the I guess a few centuries ago in the Britain time. So some guy was fighting some other ships, and basically Britain gave him the signal like stop fighting because something happened, who knows. And so he doesn't have to stop fighting. I think he deliberately looked through the telescope or whatever, looking glass or whatever they were called at the time. He deliberately looked at that from his blind eye rather than his good eye, because he was blinded in one eye, and he's like, there is no signal, and he kept on fighting. He won in the end. But that's where the phrase comes from, deliberately turning a blind eye. So yeah, I know some of this origin of phrases. I don't know which one Sam's going to cover in this one, but yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be better than what I just said, because he's gonna find some weird phrases and their weird origins. So let's watch it.
Hey kids, you know what's cool? Entomology. Etymology. There we go. Today we're going to talk about some words, some combinations thereof, and where they come from. First is the phrase white elephant. Now, for those out of the loop, a white elephant is a possession which its owner cannot dispose of and whose cost, particularly that of maintenance, is out of proportion to its usefulness, and also a game played during the holidays.
Okay. So basically historical value rather than functioning value.
For people who prefer random garbage over actual personalized presents. According to legend, this saying dates back to the monarchs of Siam. Whenever one of the king's courtiers drew his displeasure through whatever means, he would offer them a gift of a white elephant. It was considered the ultimate insult to refuse a gift from the king, so naturally the elephantee would be forced to accept. Now, if you know elephants as well as I do, you would know that they are frickin' gigantic. They can consume around 50 gallons of water and 500 pounds of foliage every day, which would be quite expensive to keep up in modern times, let alone hundreds of years ago. Plus, these ones are albino, so you have to hose them down with SPF 30 once an hour, or else they'll turn into one big tumor. Okay, not really, but they definitely needed their shade. Also, Southeast Asian cultures considered white elephants sacred, so you weren't allowed to make the animal work, and you'd have to hire a load of people to care for it on a daily basis. Basically, the person getting the gift would have to choose between financial ruin or letting it die and being socially ostracized and possibly even killed. I thought this whole thing was pretty clever, so I've started doing my own version. Whenever someone gets on my nerves, I spray paint progressive comments all over their house. That way, they'll have to spend the whole day angrily scrubbing it off, and then the neighbors will be like, wait, does that mean he likes the N-word? Bigoted scum. Next is balls to the wall.
Yeah, that is something, isn't it? Oh, that's so clever. I didn't know people used to do that. Just give them as a gift an elephant. They'll take care of it, sure. Oh, that is so epic, man. That is so, just trying to punish them without telling them that you're being punished. I think something like that David Letterman did to Conan. I think he gifted him horse as a joke. Obviously, he didn't hate him or something.
This one harkens back to the days when planes flew in the air. The throttle of many aircrafts would be controlled with either a lever or a plunger, either of which were often topped with a sphere for easy handling.
Yeah.
Thus, when you wanted to throw the plane into max thrust, you'd put the balls to the wall. In a similar vein, the phrase balls deep comes from pinball machines. When you want to launch the ball full force,
Oh, really?
you pull the plunger all the way back, otherwise known as going balls deep. Nah, just kidding. That one actually means what you think it does. Next is getting your goat, a phrase used when someone or something annoys you. The origin of this phrase is still disputed by etymologists, but one theory traces back to the sport of horse racing. In order to stop horses from getting nervous before a race, their owners would stick a goat in the stables to keep them calm. Apparently, the presence of a goat has some kind of therapeutic effect on horses, kinda like a therapy dog, except they can't pet it on account of hooves, so they just sniff it for a while.
They probably think it's just, small furry horses. So they think, isn't that cute?
I guess. Cut to a pack of young hooligans looking for something to do besides bootlegging and getting polio. They decide to break into the stables at night and escort the goat to an undisclosed location. Then when the race starts, instead of running straight ahead like a normal person, the horse would run into the crowd and drop kick a grandma or whatever, and the old crotchety oil tycoon who owns the horse would stand up, shaking his cane, yelling, "Those punks really get my goat." Thanks to modern
I don't
medicine,
think
anxious
so.
horses today can instead be given horsey Xanax to calm them down, which unfortunately means that the days of hot-blooded goat getting are over.
I don't think that's true, is it? That's just people just trying to come up with any scenario that makes sense for that particular phrase.
However, some would argue that stealing horse tranquilizers can be equally rewarding in its own way. But enough of that mumbo-jumbo. Hey, speaking of
Sam,
which, do
encouraging
you
you to
ever
take
wonder
drugs.
where mumbo-jumbo comes from? Nice segue, Sam. Thanks, Sam. Anyway, strap in, kids. This one's gonna be good. Mumbo Jumbo originates from the Mandingo people of West Africa. The Mandingos were a polygamous culture, and whenever a domestic quarrel broke out, they would soon hear animalistic screaming coming from the woods. They look over, and out runs this guy, known as Mumbo Jumbo. Now, Mumbo Jumbo's arrival was considered a big deal to the Mandingo. The whole tribe would sing and dance in the town center until midnight, at which point Mr. Jumbo would settle the dispute. And by settle the dispute, I mean tie the female to a post and slap her upside the head with a stick for an hour, while the rest of the village watched, all hootin' and a-hollerin'. And then he'd run screaming back into the woods, where he would remain until the next complaint arose. What the Mandingo women didn't know is that Mumbo Jumbo is not, in fact, a wild patriarchal deity from the forest, but merely the offending woman's husband or one of his friends wearing a costume made from tree bark and leaves. Anyway, the guy would be babbling nonsense the whole time, which is where the phrase
I like how she's always nervous. Look at those lines there. She was nervous from the start. I like how Sam's anime, even the crappy animations, even those animations are basically continuous.
Mumbo Jumbo is derived from. So next time one of your superiors uses the words Mumbo Jumbo in a jocular fashion, remember to report them to HR for promoting African wife beating. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm SamONella, and thank you for watching.
Oh, I love this episode. So this particular video was so good, man. The elephant thing is really, that reminded me of the Conan and, the David Letterman thing. But damn, that was something, isn't it? I mean, obviously, lots of kings have too much power and they have power, so they become a bit of evil-minded, so they are going to come up with things like that. But that is surprising. Yeah, give them elephants. They can kill it since it's, religious values, and they taking care of it is too much. Yeah, that is something, isn't it? There are lots of historical things that are just stupid to keep around. I think in US, what is the penny? Yeah, penny, who's made from copper that I guess costs more than actual worth of the penny, and people are still continuing it. So, some things like that are really stupid. Like, there is no sense in doing that. Yeah, this was a good video. Alright, people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out other reactions that I did. There's a link in the description. Check out the end card, and I'll see you next time.